So I would just be like, I wouldn't study in the morning. I would just study whenever. Like if I had free time, I'd be like, oh, I have to study.
Yeah.
I'd like go watch a lecture and be like, okay, I'm good. And like I wasn't really retaining anything. And then I would take lots of days off
Yeah.
because I didn't really know any better. And like I just kind of jumped into it without knowing anything. And so I didn't have a set game plan. So I think that really threw me off. So yeah, once I like listened to your information session, I was like, okay, I need to like figure out what I'm going to study and like the 2 hours and all that, and then schedule my tests. So like I have to study in order to make my test day.
Welcome to episode 97 of the CPA Exam Experience podcast from SuperfastCPA. I'm Nate, and in today's interview, you're going to hear me talk with Hannah. So Hannah is just finishing her master's degree, but she is already done with all 4 CPA exams. So Hannah's study journey story is pretty straightforward. She started studying the normal way, did that for about 2 weeks. She realized it wasn't really getting her anywhere or paying off, that it was a lot of time and effort put in for very little results. She came across our free training, watched the free training, got our study tools, and from there would just study 2 hours in the morning, following the study strategies, and she's passed all 4 sections doing that exact thing. So in this episode, you will hear the specifics of how she did that, all the different details, the study techniques, how she would structure the 2-hour morning sessions, how she would study on the weekends, and all the little insights that she got from implementing the strategies and passing all 4 over the course of several months while she was still in her master's degree. Before we jump into the interview with Hannah, I just want to mention 2 things. First, the free training webinar. So as you'll hear in Hannah's interview, she watched our free training webinar once, took the ideas or the strategies from the free training, and used that to pass all 4 sections, studying just 2 hours a day. So if you have not watched one of those free training webinars yet, that is the best place for you to start. That's the first thing you should do to get familiar with our study strategies and why our study process is so much different and more effective than just following the normal study approach. The link to one of those trainings will be down in the description of this episode. You could also do it at our main website at SuperfastCPA.com. It's the main thing at the top of the homepage. The second thing is to enter our free podcast giveaway. So each month we give away 3 pairs of Powerbeat Pro headphones. The idea behind giving away the headphones is that first, these specific headphones are by far my favorite headphones that I've ever used. The second main point goes along with the audio notes. The idea being that whenever you're doing other things throughout the rest of your day, you could be listening to audio notes, racking up extra study time, building extra exposure and familiarity with the concepts, making more connections with the material. It just pays off. The more time you spend exposing yourself to the CPA material, the better you're going to do on test day. And audio is one of the easiest ways to find extra time to study because you can be doing other things while you listen to audios. So to sign up for that giveaway, go to superfastcpa.com/enter, or again, that link will also be down in the description of this episode. So with that out of the way, let's get into the interview with Hannah.
All right. So on here, you said I followed the study process of Superfast, just studied using multiple choice. I didn't watch any Becker lectures or read the textbook. Passed all 4 using this technique. Awesome. So I guess my first question would be, did you have a period where you just studied kind of, I always say the normal way, just where you were trying to watch a video?
Yeah.
How long did you do that?
Yeah. So I took audit first. I got through about halfway and using the normal way, using Becker, watching the lectures and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And then I was like, this isn't working. Like I was watching the lectures and like highlighting the book. And I'm like, what's the point of this? Like the person giving the lecture, he would just read the book word for word. And I was just like, this is pointless. I can do that myself.
Yeah.
And I've never like been one to highlight things and I've studied before. So I'm like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And yeah, I was not motivated at all because I wasn't really retaining anything. And so I went home for a bit because I'm originally from Michigan. So I went back up there to visit my family. And I brought my textbook because I was like, I'm going to study. And I just didn't open it one time. So I lost a week and a half of study time just because I wasn't motivated at all. I was like, this isn't working. I need to find something new. And so I've seen your ads on YouTube pop up, and they've popped up for me back when I was a junior in undergrad before I really even was thinking about taking the CPA exam. And I was like, what is this? Why do I need to know this right now? But so I had seen you for a few years, and then finally I listened to the whole thing and then joined one of the informational sessions. And I was like, this makes sense. I think I'll try this. So I got just the audio notes and the review notes, that package, and just started doing that. And yeah, that was about halfway through audit, and I've used that ever since.
Nice. That's awesome. So first question that comes to mind is, so you see our ads for years, it sounds like, and then, you start the study process. And that is one thing. I think it's hard for people to until you're a few weeks into the study process and you see what that's actually like, it's hard to maybe understand okay, I need a strategy here, because just watching every video, this is just kind of not, is that kind of how you felt? It didn't really click why you might need some, or why maybe our strategies make sense until you tried it the normal way?
Yeah, because I had friends who were taking it and stuff, and they use Becker from work. And so I was just like, okay, we must have to follow this method of watching the hour-long lecture. And then you do all the multiple choice and all the sims, which are just impossible because I had no idea how to do the sims because I really didn't know the information. So it was just I felt horrible because I was like, I don't know how to do these. How am I supposed to do them on test day?
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so when you say you were doing it that way, you're watching the video, following along, highlighting, was that kind of how you knew it wasn't really doing anything? Is because then you'd go to the practice problems and you still just had no idea how to do it? Or what about that form of studying made you think that this isn't working?
I think because, I would go to the multiple choice and I wouldn't really know anything, even though I'd read the section and listened to the lecture. And also just because I didn't have a set study plan really, because I was like, oh, I can just, if I just watch the lecture, do the multiple choice and do the sims, I'm good. I'm studying, that's the technique. And so I'll be able to pass if I just watch all of the lectures and all that. So I would just be I wouldn't study in the morning. I would just study whenever. If I had free time, I'd be like, oh, I have to study.
Yeah.
I'd go watch a lecture and be like, okay, I'm good. And I wasn't really retaining anything. So yeah, it was just and then I would take lots of days off.
Okay.
Because I didn't really know any better. I just kind of jumped into it without knowing anything. I had gotten the materials and just started, and I didn't really think about okay, how much time should I be spending studying? When should I schedule my tests? I just started.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have a set game plan. So I think that really threw me off. So yeah, once I listened to your information session, I was like, okay, I need to figure out what I'm going to study and the 2 hours and all that, and then schedule my tests. So I have to study in order to make my test day.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. That's a big thing too. Yeah. And everyone kind of has to kind of figure that out, like you said, you start the process, but you don't really know. You don't know what you're doing from a study strategy standpoint. You also don't really know what you're doing from like you said, you really have to kind of block in okay, if this is going to work, this has to happen every day. I'm going to do this at the same time. Did you switch to mornings? Maybe it sounds like.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I would get up at 6, just because I felt if I set my alarm for 6 and just got up and started studying right away, then I didn't even have to think about it. Because if I wouldn't set my alarm, I'd get up and kind of take my time and then be like, oh, I guess I should go study. But if I just like got up and started studying, then it would go a lot easier.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because that's just a lot of stuff that sounds so obvious, right? It's like sounds so basic, but at the same time, again, most people have to try, like, kind of flail around for a few weeks before they realize, okay, I have to be like disciplined in every little segment of this, so this isn't gonna work. So
Yeah.
you'd get up at 6. What was your were you working at that time? Have you like you've been out of school for a while?
No. So I was in the master's. I'm still in the master's program, but
Oh, right
when I
now?
started studying for audit, yeah,
That's awesome.
I'm
You're done.
gonna be graduating in like 3 weeks. Yeah,
Awesome. Well, congrats on graduating and being done.
thanks.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Um,
Yeah, so when I first started studying for audit, it was the summer before I started my first master's classes. And I was like, I'm gonna get audit done before like the semester starts, and it just didn't happen.
yeah,
But so yeah, so I was just a full-time student.
cool. But again, like you said, getting that out of the way in the morning, and then obviously it doesn't matter if you're working or if you're in your master's, just first 2 hours of the day, getting it done is so much easier
Yeah.
and it works better. And then you don't have to think about it all day and try to figure out, you know, in the afternoon or the evening, I've got all these things going on. Maybe I'll study when I get back at like 10 o'clock tonight. And, that never happened.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
what about, let's see. So that was your mornings. Then you'd kind of do your classes or schoolwork all day. And then would you use our study tools throughout the day, kind of like the mini sessions idea? Or how'd you do that?
Yeah, so I would do the 2 hours in the morning, and I kind of based it off of the multiple choice in Becker. Like, if one section had, like, 50 or more multiple choice, I would just study that section that day and then do, like, the 30 review. But if there are a few sections that had, like, because there's a few that have, like, 5 multiple choice or 10 multiple choice, I would do, like, 3 of those to just get up to like 30 or 40 multiple choice, learning new questions. And then I would do the review. So that's kind of how I based it. And I would go through and look at all the modules in Becker and see how many multiple choice they had and kind of base off my days. So I could then like see when I would be able to schedule my test. So that's how I did that. And then I would do the review notes. I would read a few pages. I would also read a few pages of the section I was about to study in the morning just to kind of get it in my brain because I hadn't seen it at all. And that helped. And I would also use, like, doing the multiple choice, I would kind of go back to the review notes at the same time and, like, kind of look for the answer, I guess. But I would, like, read the section and kind of, like, it would stick in my brain.
Yeah.
And then I didn't really use the audio notes as much because they were separate from the review notes because I found that I wasn't really listening all the time. I'd kind of tune it out sometimes and have to like focus on listening to the audio notes. And it's kind of hard for me when I can't see like what you're saying. So I would only really listen to the audio notes like if I went on a walk or if I was driving to school. And then I would use them. I would listen to the audio notes while I read the review notes. And I could listen. If I did that at the same time, I could listen to them at like 2 times speed, but still be reading them. So I could get through it a lot faster.
Yeah.
And that really helped. And then I did the multiple choice questions. Not a lot, but every once in a while I would do those.
Yeah. Just right. Whenever it made sense. Yeah. So a lot of people mention that, and we're coming out with a new study tool that is that, where it's essentially like a video where you'll hear the audio, but just see the words of the audio note the review notes on the screen at the same time. Because we hear that from people constantly. Is that something that you just came up with, or did you hear that from one of these other interviews? To read?
Yeah, I heard it from the other.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was just something I guess I had heard it and then just started doing it because sometimes it helps me to like, if I'm just reading the review notes, to read it out loud. And that seems to work because, like, I don't know, I guess reading it in my head sometimes doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so I like to read it out loud. So, but then my voice would get
Yeah.
tired. So I'd be like, okay, I'm just going to listen and read at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, well, when I recorded those stupid things, it ruins my voice for like a week afterwards. I have to
Yeah.
like, space them out. Yeah. It's a lot of,
Mhm.
I mean, hours of talking, I guess. So one question I have is, okay, when you started studying audit the normal way, even though you were doing, you'd watch the lecture, then do the practice problems, and then switching to this format where you'd go straight into the practice problems. In your own words, why do you think that worked better? Because, what I mean is like essentially either way, once you get to the practice problems, you still don't really know it until you jump into the problems. But was there something from our free training that clicked to where that made more sense? Or why do you think it worked better for you than what you were doing before?
I think because you mentioned that all the multiple choice, even if there's 60 questions or something, they only really have a few topics. And I have noticed that when you are going through the multiple choice, sometimes you get 5 questions that are the exact same question, just like one word is different or a few of the numbers are different. And so I think that really helped just to narrow down your study.
Yeah.
Because if you are just going through the whole textbook, it's like this thick
Right.
for far or something. And they make it seem like you have to know everything. And then you get to the test and there's like 20 questions on leases or something.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I didn't have to know like this one random thing. But I think that really just helped to narrow my focus on what I was going to study.
Yeah.
And yeah. It just made it less daunting, I think, because like when you open the textbook, it's like there's everything you have to know is in there, but you get to a multiple choice and it's like 3 topics.
Yeah.
So I just didn't look at the textbook again. I was like, I guess everything I need to know is in the multiple choice.
Yeah. I mean, right. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously I agree with everything you said. For the sake of people listening to this, I just wanted to hear it in your own words or how you understood it. Yeah, that's totally true. Obviously, you go through the pages in the textbook and they have flow charts and all these complicated graphs and stuff. And then like the questions are never really that detailed. So it's one of those things. Okay. So how would you structure your 2 hours in the morning when your main study sessions? Like how would you structure them?
So I would, some days I wouldn't, but I would look at the review notes of the section.
Okay.
And then I would start with the multiple choice of that section or sections and just base it really just on how many multiple choice were in the section. Cause I felt like if I did one section that was 20 questions, I could do at least 1 more or 2 more, depending on how many. And so I would do it that way. And I would go through multiple choice and I would just write out the notes. Like I would write out answers I just had like a notebook that I wrote out the answers of some of the questions, not all of them, because some of them I already knew just based on my classes, but I would write that out. And then when I would get through enough multiple choice, it would usually be around an hour or so, an hour and a half, just studying off the multiple choice and writing out notes. And then I would do the 30 question review from all the previous sections.
Nice. So you just remembered all that just from the free training. You just watched that one time and just kind of memorize the format and that's just all you use.
And then, and then I listened to the podcast.
That's right.
So every time a new one came out, I watched it right away.
Gotcha.
And so I got some tips from that.
Yeah. No, right. I guess if you listen to a bunch of these, you can kind of put the pieces together because we kind of talk through the process over and over. And I mean, I tell new customers, listen to the podcast as well, because that will make all the ideas from the pro course like really sink in, because you'll just hear them, and you'll hear people's like kind of different interpretations of it, which I think helps.
Mhm.
What about, so you mentioned a notebook. So was that kind of your way of things or topics that you found confusing at first? That's how you put them in your own words? Or did you do flashcards as well? Or how'd you do that part of it?
So I did flashcards for FAR, but I found that what really, like, it wasn't writing it in my own words, that I actually just copied it from my notebook to the flashcards. And then I found that I never really looked at the flashcards again. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I shouldn't waste time like rewriting them.
Yeah.
But I would just, so I guess I never really used flashcards, but I did like write out notes
Yep.
when I was going through the multiple choice. And then when I was doing like the review or anything like that, if I was stuck on a question, I would flip back to my notes and like read through that area. And that would just kind of give me a refresher.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think it really matters, like the format, whether it's flashcards or, standard notes. It sounds like it's just some form of writing things down as you go that are either confusing to you or things that a lot of times you'll read an explanation and then something will click from like, okay, on these types of questions, that finally makes sense. And so you like write that down. So just stuff like that.
Mhm. Yeah. And I've never really been one to use flashcards. I've always just written stuff out in a notebook. So I guess that's just what I've been used to, and that's what worked.
For sure. Yeah. And that's kind of the common thing I've got from these interviews is in college and stuff, I never took notes or did anything. So when it came to the CPAs at some
Mhm.
point, that idea was like, okay, I'm going to put this stuff in my own words, and just the digital flashcards, which I would then have on my phone wherever I was, made sense. But I had never done anything previously. And then on all these interviews, it's kind of just what always worked for the person, whether they were a big note taker through college, which that's what it sounds like. So yeah, like if you've already have some proven system you've used, like just do that same thing, just some version of writing out things in
Yeah.
your own words. What about so you would do the multiple choice first, the set of reviews, 30 or a set of 30 to review. And then when would you use practice sims in your process, or how did you use practice sims?
Yeah. So I saved those until my review. So I didn't do the weekend cram because I felt a little nervous doing that, just because it seemed like I know it probably works for some people, but I wanted a little
Yeah.
time to review, I guess,
Mhm.
just so I could feel really prepared. So I would spend about like 4 to 5 days doing a full review, and I would or longer if I think I did longer for FAR because it had more modules. So I would study like one module a day. So like one whole section, however many like subsections were in that, I would study that, and I would do just like constant repeat 30 multiple choice of like random. And then I would do like the ones that Becker has that's like set just for you. I can't remember what it's called. But so I would switch to get like different multiple choice
Mhm.
questions. And then so I would do 2 sets of like 30, and then after that I would do a few sims. So I would just kind of start from the first section and then just go through those sims if I could. If there were a couple that were exactly like the same format, I would skip it.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time I wouldn't really fill it all out. I would kind of fill out what I could, and then I would go watch the video and see what they did.
Yeah. No, that's like the way of doing it. So you really wouldn't do any practice sims until that final like week before your exam, basically?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And that's, several people. Well, again, if you've heard all these interviews, that's a pretty common thing that I don't know, that just works for some people. And then other people are just terrified of the sims and can't imagine, like not doing them until like the week before. Like, it's just one of those things that you find what works for you. But
Yeah, I think that's another reason why I didn't do like the weekend cram because I hadn't looked at the Sims before. So I just felt like I needed more time to look at the Sims and then just get a lot more multiple choice done. I probably did like a few hundred multiple choice a day. So I think that really helped because I could get through them really fast.
yeah, yep. And that's the thing. Again, I'm sure you've heard me explain this, but the doing the multiple choice in those sets of 30 just solves so many problems in advance for test day because you get so fast at the MCQs. And you could make the argument that the Sims are just kind of like MCQs, just in a little bit different format. So it just really prepares you just doing sets of 30 every day. And then, so what was your test day as far as like timing? You probably got through the MCQs really fast and just had tons of time for the Sims. So you could just sit there and kind of figure them out.
Yeah. So for audit, I think I got through the multiple choice in about an hour.
Yeah.
And then, so I had this 3 hours for all the Sims, which I think I had 45 minutes remaining. So I could have used more time, but same thing for FAR, really. I think it took me like maybe an hour 15 for the multiple choice. So I was still like pretty good because sometimes Becker or other places say like, don't take more than 2 hours for the multiple choice. I'm like, 2 hours for the multiple choice? That's a long time.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, I feel better about an hour 15. So then I had the rest. And I actually, FAR was the only one that I went to like the very last minute. I had like filled it all out, but I was still just kind of looking it over. I think I had like 2 minutes left. And that was the only one that, all the other ones I had about 45 minutes to an hour left. But FAR was the only one. And then for Reg and BEC, it was pretty much the same as audit, like an hour or so. And then
that's pretty fast, like to have an hour left. But again, that on all these interviews, anyone who said that, they like almost always end up passing. That just seems to be a very good indicator of if you finish the full test like early, whether it's 5 minutes or just finishing seems to be an indicator that like you probably passed. I don't know, just from doing it.
Yeah, but it's funny because I guess I kind of rushed through the test, and after every test, I always came out feeling horrible, and then I would pass all of them. So I don't know. I guess something worked.
Nope, for sure. It is. It's hard to know. Like, yeah, and then you have weeks to wait, and so you just sit there and think about it. Like, some days you might, yeah. And so you went 4 for 4. Is that?
Yeah.
Nice. Congrats. Sounds like you crushed the exams. And it wasn't, you would essentially study 2 hours in the morning. And so, I mean, the study process to you, just once you kind of got this process down, just didn't really seem like this huge taking over your life nightmare. It was just kind of nail the 2 hours and that's it.
Yeah, basically. Like sometimes we would have friends come and visit, and I would just still get up early and study before anyone else really got up. So even if we had friends visit or family, like I could still study, and then I would just do the questions or like read review notes throughout the day. Yeah. I didn't really it wasn't crazy how many times I like read the review notes and all that stuff, but I did do it enough times to like actually to make the process work.
Yeah. And when another thing a lot of people say is what you said, they'll kind of just read the section in our notes before they jump into the lesson in Becker or whatever review course they're using, just to get a big picture overview. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's another thing a lot of people say. So what about, how did you study on the weekends then? Would you just do another 2-hour session or maybe 4 hours, or what'd you do on the weekends?
It was, so the weekends are basically the same. I didn't really study anymore. I would just do the 2 hours in the morning and then review throughout the day.
Nice. It makes it.
So, I mean, if I had studied more, I might have been able to finish the test earlier, but I guess I did it. I don't know. I mean, I had 18 months of I was only in school, so I was like, I have plenty of time using this method. I know I'm going to have plenty of
Yeah.
time. I actually took after I passed FAR, I took it the first week of December. And so it was right around finals week. So then I went home back to Michigan for a few weeks in December. And I actually just took that month and then the next month off before I started studying for my next one, which was reg, because I just knew. I was like, I'm not gonna study over the Christmas
Mhm.
break. And so I might as well just say I'm not gonna study, instead of saying I will study and then feel bad when I
Yeah.
because I just knew I
That-
wasn't going to.
yeah.
So I just put it off and took a break, and that really
Yeah.
helped.
Yeah. And that is good. Again, that's just one of those things that all these people I've interviewed just have totally different, ways of, like, after a test, some people would take 2 weeks off and just, to them, they just had to, or other people would start studying for the next section like the next day. I mean, it's just one of those that
Mhm.
whatever works best.
I had done that for audit. When I finished audit, I started studying for FAR right away. So then when I got done with FAR, then I took that break.
Yeah. And so how were you setting your test dates, or I mean, how far apart were you setting your test dates usually?
So for audit and FAR, I didn't schedule my test until I was probably halfway through the material. And then I was like, okay, so it's taking me this long and I have this much left. So I'm going to schedule it for this
Mhm.
date. But then for reg and BEC, I went through the multiple choice questions, each section, kind of did a game plan every day. And so it took me 6 weeks for reg from when I first started to test day, and then 4 weeks for BEC doing the same thing. So I just kind of based it off the sections in the multiple choice and a week or for review. And yeah, I just did that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just going to schedule it a few weeks out, and then I just have to make that date.
Right. Yeah. That's, for me, that's just how it worked. It's hard to, I don't know. I just liked having the sense of pressure. Like, okay, I know this is the date. I'll
Yeah.
work backwards, and every day matters, because it's hard to feel the pressure if you haven't set a test date yet.
Yeah. Because then if I had my test date set and I didn't want to pay $30 to
Yeah.
change it, I was like, I'm not doing that. So then I was like, I have to study every day. And if I missed a day, then I would just do a little bit more the next day. So I didn't feel too bad about missing a day because I knew I can make it up any other day.
And so you're done with all four before you even finish or graduate from your master's. Is that common, or are you one of the only ones who has done that?
No, well, I have a few friends in the master's program that are done as well. I think they graduated in May, but they were all done before too.
Yeah.
But everyone I meet, at my job where I'm gonna start in the fall, or internships or anything like that, they've all told me to take the test before I start working. So that's why I did it, because everyone I heard from that is try to take the test while they're working. They're like, it's not working.
Right.
They have no motivation, they have no time. So I was like, well, I'm lucky enough to not have to work during my master's program. So I figured, since I have so much free time outside of classwork, that I might as well take the test and get it over with.
Yeah. Oh, that's so awesome to just be done before you even start working. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say most people, I mean, in my master's degree, I don't know if Utah was different, but nobody did that. Maybe we just were all, I don't know, but I just know for sure, no one was done with the exams, or no one was even studying during our masters. Anyways, yeah, that's cool. So let's see, what about so you mentioned your final review, you would take about a week, and then, so anything on, I mean, let's say the last day before an exam, did you do anything different, or just the same thing? You were just finishing each module, like you said, kind of reviewing each module and right up to test day? Nothing different on the day?
Yeah, not really. I basically took your strategy for the weekend cram and just put it into a week long. And then, so you said to do constant 30 questions, 2 sets of 30 questions, and then do sims. So that was basically how I just formatted the whole week, except I would go module by module. And sometimes it would be 2 modules a day, depending. Like I think for government, there were like 3 modules for government. I think I did those all on the same day because they're all related to the same thing. So that's how I could get through some of it quicker. So for I would schedule it on like a Monday or a Tuesday if I could. So like Saturday and Sunday before the test, I would basically just do like a full review, basically like the cram, but like a little less because I had already studied the modules up to then. So I would just do the same thing except like a full review of everything.
Okay. Nice. What?
But I wasn't spending like 10, 12 hours a day doing it. Maybe like 6.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that. And that's funny because that's kind of what I tell people, or sometimes people email me and say, I have all day, every day to study. How should I just study 12 hours a day? And I always say like, no, if you're really like nailing and you can focus during these 2-hour sessions, I would do like 3 of those 2-hour sessions, like kind of like 6 hours. I feel like after 6 hours in one day, it's kind of like diminishing returns. So
Yeah, I knew I wouldn't be able to just sit in my room for 12 hours and do it. So that's kind of why I decided to take the full week to review.
Yeah. No, and that is a good idea. And a lot of people do that as well. They take the cram session idea and just apply that to sometimes 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week. I mean, whatever. It's probably better, honestly, to do a week, I think. I need to add that in a note to like our pro course. So the day we kind of went through everything. Did you do anything to celebrate when you got your 4th passing score?
Not really, but I'm going home in August to visit my family, so that'll be fun. And when I first started studying, I was like, when I get done, I'm gonna buy myself a work bag, like a nice work bag. So I purchased that like last week. So I'm excited for that to read.
Yeah,
That was kind of my thing that kept me going.
yeah, for sure. I'm a big believer in that. Did you ever hear me talk about that? The like set some reward for yourself where you're going to, I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, a lot of people, that's not like a novel idea. Obviously, a lot of people have some thing they're going to buy themselves with their bonus from their firm. Oh, that's a question.
Yeah.
Since you're done before you even started, do you get a bonus from your firm, or is it like you finish so fast that, how does that work? Are they still going to give you the bonus?
No, I do get the bonus. I made sure to ask them because I wanted to get it done before I started. So I asked them and was like, do I still get the bonus even if I finish before I start working? And they said yes.
Yeah. I mean, I would assume, like they would love it if their new associates aren't messing around with studying. So it'd be worth it to them.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes.
Well, yeah. So, thing I always end with is if you had 2 or 3 tips, what are your best tips that you would tell people that are trying to figure out their own study process?
Yeah. So I would say listen to the podcasts if you can, because I think that really helped me to stay motivated. Because if there was a day where I didn't really feel like studying and the podcast came up on YouTube, I would go listen to it and I'd be like, okay, I know this is working for these people and I'm using their same technique, so it's going to work for me too. So I think that really helped with my motivation and just also learning new tips from people. Basically, everything I learned was from the informational session and then listening to all the podcasts. And then, so I got all these great tips and then I just kind of formulated it to what I like to do. And then another one is definitely study in the morning. I think that just really helped just to get it over with as early as possible. And even if you don't like getting up in the morning, I would say just set an alarm and right when you wake up, just start studying.
Yeah.
Because I think it just really helps to not have any distractions. Otherwise, you'll like think about something else or do something else and then you won't want to study. So I think if you just get it over with in the morning, that's a good strategy. And then another one is like, just if you need a break, just take it. I think this strategy helps you pass the test so fast that you don't really have to worry about the 18-month window to pass all 4. So, I mean, I don't know if I would recommend taking like a month or 2, but you could if you want. But
Yeah.
just after you take a test, just take a week or so, or just however long you need to kind of like relax and then get back into the mindset of studying for the next one.
Yeah, and along with that, what you said earlier was really good. With just, like you were going to Christmas, I think, and you just decided, I'm just up front. I'm not going to pretend that I'm going to study. I'm taking these 2 weeks off or whatever it was, 3 weeks. I think that's a really good idea because whatever it is about how our minds work, if you've said you're going to do something and then you don't, yeah, you just are really hard on yourself, and it's just so much easier to just,
Yeah.
okay, I'm giving myself this 2 weeks where I'm just not going to study, and that is the plan, to not study. And then when the 2 week over, it is easier to be like, okay, now I'm back on. So I like that distinction. That's a good idea.
Yeah, that really helped. Yeah.
Awesome. So that was the interview with Hannah. I hope you found that very helpful and informative. So if you did find this interview helpful, please take a second to share it with someone else who you know who's also working on their CPA exams, because these interviews are the most helpful free resource available anywhere for people trying to figure out their own study process, as you heard Hannah describe on her interview. So thanks for watching or listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.